Hello, I'm Jyotika. Welcome to Excelling Psychology. I get a lot of requests for AQA A2 videos. And since Unit 3 exams are around the corner for Oxford International AQA, I'm getting a lot of requests for schizophrenia, sleep, and research methods. For sleep, particularly, even in my classes, students keep on telling me there are not enough application questions to practice. That is because in the UK syllabus, sleep is not a proper chapter. Only a part of it is included in that syllabus. So, from Exam Pro, also, we are not able to draw questions for sleep. And in the textbook, there are very few questions. So, no problem. I have a lot of questions for you, application questions that we will be practicing in today's class from the sleep unit. So, today we are doing a practice of only AO2 questions because those are lacking for practice. In this video, I will explain to you how to write answers, what your structuring should be, and I will show you concrete examples. I will write down model answers not for you to memorize, but for you to take them as examples of, okay, this is how I can write my answer also. Never take a memorization approach, that's not helpful. Take an understanding approach. Understand how I'm writing the answer. Don't focus on what I have written in the answer. Also, I have seen many students don't have conceptual clarity, especially for the sleep unit, they find it little complicated. I won't explain much. This is not like a proper explanation video of the sleep chapter. But whatever is relevant to the question given, I will explain those concepts to you before writing the answers. Okay, so and also I will not talk much about overall how to structure answers or mark schemes and all. I will just restrain myself to how much is relevant here, that much I'll keep on explaining to you. So, if you want to know about in general for your AQA, Oxford AQA, how to structure answers, how to look at the command terms, how to look at the marks which are given, what are the mark scheme requirements, please watch the other videos on my channel. Okay, so I'm coming to the first question here. A factory introduces a rotating shift schedule for its workers where employees alternate weekly between day shifts, that's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., evening shifts, which is 4 p.m. to midnight, and night shifts, which is midnight to 8 a.m. After 6 months, the management notices a rise in employee fatigue, errors in operating machinery, and increased health complaints. Using your knowledge of circadian rhythms and shift work, explain why workers are experiencing these issues. Now, in this question, very directly, they have named the concepts which are relevant. Like you can see circadian rhythms and shift work. That is not always the case. In all the questions which we are going to see, you will not always find that they have named, okay, these are the concepts you need to apply. So, if that is the case, the first thing you need to do is identify the concept which is relevant to the scenario given. So, first principle to answering application questions is within the larger topic that's asked, you know it's about sleep, that you can identify sleep. Within whatever you've learned in sleep, which is the concept which is relevant to this scenario, circadian rhythms and shift work. So, first be clear on that. Next, look at the command term. Explain why, meaning you have to give reasoning for this answer. You can't just name something and say, okay, this is what is happening. You need to reason out why or how that thing is impacting, how that concept is impacting whatever is happening in the situation. Then look at the marks. Even that is very important. It's worth 2 marks. So when you write an answer, it should justify 2 marks. Don't write unnecessary elaboration. Like some students treat every answer as a long answer. So for 2 marks, also they'll be writing answers as if it's a 4 or 6 marks. It's strictly 2 marks. So write with that amount of precision. Okay, now, like I told you, I will explain the concept to you so you have clarity before we can write. You've learned about shift work, and you have learned that when shift work takes place, that causes a misalignment between external cues, which we officially call exogenous Zeitgebers, in this case, night and daytime, and internal cues, what we call endogenous pacemakers, which is the sleep wake cycle. There's a misalignment between the two because as the worker is shifting from one shift to another, the external cues, of course, are remaining as they are, but their internal cues are going on changing because they are having to adapt to a new shift every time. This is a rotating shift. They have to keep on alternating week after week. Their internal body clock has to go on adjusting with the external cues because the shift work is moving. So that is the reason why they are having problem with shift work. They're having these productivity and health issues which are mentioned here because their body clock is having to adjust too much to the change which is coming in shift work, the alignment which it is not able to get with the external cues of night and day. So that is what we need to explain. Now, how to structure the answer. Before we write any answer, we should think about the structure so that we can write it in a very organized way. It's worth 2 marks. So in my first point, I can just specify, like identify very briefly because it's worth 2 marks. So just in one sentence only, in a very few words, I can explain what I mean by endogenous pacemakers, not in general, which are getting disrupted here. Like just identifying which endogenous pacemakers are getting disrupted here and which external Z-Gibbers are getting affected here. That I can just write in one line. And then in the second line, because this is a reasoning based question, I apply it to the scenario and show, okay, because this misalignment is taking place, that is why from week to week, given their pattern, they are having an issue. Okay, if this is you're not able to follow through, I'm actually going to write the answer and you'll be able to see my structure in the answer. Also, what I'll do is I'll upload these answers on my website so you can download a copy. I'll link it in the description box and in the pinned comment below so you can have some model answers for reference. Though I'm going to write here and I'm going to upload it for a download for you, does not mean you should take a passive approach when you're watching this video. Be very active, make your notes when you're seeing this video. In fact, the best thing to do is after I have read out a question, pause the video, write your answer, and then check with me whether you're writing a similar answer or not. Only if you're active, you will be able to learn and write something in the paper. By passively watching what I'm doing, you will not be able to write answers in the paper. So make sure you're not just sitting and watching this video. Okay, so how I will put it is, the workers are experiencing desynchronization. I was thinking of what misalignment is called technically. For AO3 answers, that's generally for 16 markers, they explicitly specify in the mark scheme that terminology has to be good, which does not mean that for the remaining answers, terminology does not have to be good. For all your answers, use good terminology, show that you're a psychology student having psychology knowledge. So for this answer, words like desynchronization, exogenous Zeitgebers, endogenous pacemakers, make sure to use these terms when you're answering. So the workers are experiencing desynchronization between their endogenous pacemakers, such as the sleep-wake cycle, or you can just call it the body clock, and exogenous Zeitgebers, such as the day-night schedule. So this is what I was explaining orally, that you need to like in few words, like you can see in 2 or 3 words, I've just explained what are the endogenous pacemakers and the Zeitgebers I'm referring to. Don't elaborate beyond this. Like don't show exactly how sleep-wake cycle is getting disrupted and all. It's too much for a 2 marker. So just name it this way when you're writing. Also, I've said such as sleep cycle because even body temperature is involved. Same in Zeitgebers, even external temperature is involved. So this is one example of the primary thing which is causing disruption. So I've used the word such as. As I've already mentioned, I'll just reiterate, you don't strictly have to write how I'm writing. Your writing style can be different. But just see how I'm making use of terminology, where I'm restricting myself, where I'm not elaborating too much, and how I am clearly showing reasoning with reference to the workers. Like I began my answer only with the workers. Some students have a very bad habit. They will, even if a full situation is given, they will keep talking in very general terms. So they'll say whenever there's desynchronization between pacemakers and Zeitgebers, there is disruption. they have given you a situation, they're talking specifically about factory workers. Why are you not also referring to them when you're writing? If they just wanted your general knowledge, like AO1 knowledge on Z, gibbers, and pacemakers, why would they be giving you this full situation? So that's something that should be very obvious to you. So if they have given you a situation, based on that they're asking a question, you also have to consider the situation when you're writing the answer. Okay, now in the next line, I'll give the reasoning and show how it applies here. Since these workers are having to work on weekly rotating shifts, this desynchronization is occurring, resulting in productivity and health issues. I've used wording from the scenario. I've made use of the knowledge given in the scenario. I've not written a generic answer. Also, I have ended with directly addressing what was asked in the question. The question asked, why are they experiencing these issues? So I finished off by writing that, okay, this is the reason they are suffering from these issues. That is known as addressing the question. That's known as being specific or contextualized rather than being generic. And contextualizing, being specific, is the key in scoring in AO2. Okay, let's look at the next question, which is from the same scenario. So many times from the same scenario, they will ask you multiple 2 markers. Suggest 2 ways the factory could minimize these problems. Now, when you've learned about shift work and circadian rhythms in the textbook, you've learned one is a forward rotating shift, always better than backward rotating. It's easier for the body to adjust to. So that is one solution which is there for the problem. Just to explain to you about forward rotating before we write about it, forward rotating is when we are inducing phase delay, which is easier for the body to adjust to. If today a factory worker is having to work in the morning, in this week, next week they have to work in the afternoon. That means their sleeping time will get pushed. They will get to sleep a little later because factory time is going ahead. That's easier for the body to adjust to. But supposing they have to go backwards, like first they have to do night work, then they get to do evening and all. In that case, they have to sleep earlier than usual. So in week 1, whatever time they are sleeping, next week, because they are going to be going to the factory early, they're going to have to sleep earlier than usual. This is known as phase advance. This is difficult for the body to adjust to. Students get confused between delay and advance, so just know the base principle. The body can easily delay or postpone sleeping a little bit. It's not very difficult. But having to sleep early when the body is not feeling like sleeping, that is very difficult for the body to do. That's why forward shift works better, in which time will go ahead and the factory worker can keep on delaying a little when they have to sleep. That's okay. They'll manage to do that. But if it's going backward, meaning that every week they have to sleep earlier and earlier, that becomes very difficult to adjust to. Again, this was for your explanation. We don't have to write all of this. The answer is for 2 marks. The command term is suggest. So before writing the structure, we can think of is 2 ways are asked worth 2 marks. 1 way is worth 1 mark. 1 sentence for 1 way. 1 sentence for another way. My first way is forward rotating shift. It's just worth 1 mark, so I can't get into details like, oh, it's phase delay, this is why phase delay works. That much I can't write for 1 mark. So I can just write how it can apply to the factory workers. I can just make it relevant to the situation. Also, given that the command term is suggest, it's not explain. I don't need to explain why it will work out. I just need to suggest that this is one thing which can work out. That's all I need to do. Same thing for my next suggestion, which is going to be a few naps during shift work. I'll just explain it to you again before we write. What is found is that if factory workers are having to rotate shifts, in that case, if they get a few naps in between, that can help them to restore during their shift. That's like, there's nothing much to explain. I think it's easy to understand that if someone just takes a few sleeping time in between when they are feeling tired, that will work out. That will help them to feel fresh. Okay, so we can write 1 way. Always use signposting when you're writing. So if the question is about 2 ways, so start off with 1 way. is to introduce a forward rotating shift in the factory whereby workers will first work on morning shift for a week, then evening, and then night. My keyboard is acting up a little, so please bear with me. Another way is to allow for a few naps during the shift so that the workers can restore their body. Okay, so this is how we have to write. You can see that in either sentence, I have not tried to get into the details of why it works because the command term is not explained. I've strictly given a suggestion. This should be done and that should be done. That's all. Okay, just a minute. Okay, now we have a different question altogether. Sometimes they ask us these 4 markers, like from the situation. Instead of breaking down the questions to 2 marks, they could just ask a 4 marker. I'll just read out the question first. Priya recently traveled from Mumbai, that's India, to Paris, France. She landed in Paris at 6 p.m. local time, but the body clock indicated it was 10:30 p.m. Mumbai time. Priya noticed she felt tired earlier than the locals because her body expected to sleep soon. A week later, Priya traveled from Paris to Bangkok, arriving at 7 a.m. local time. This time, her body clock told her it was only 1 p.m. and she struggled to adjust to the new schedule. Explain why Priya found it easier to adjust to the first trip than the second one. Okay, this is a little lengthy scenario. First, I'll just explain to you what's happening here and then I'll explain to you how to write the answer. You've learned the concepts of phase delay and phase advance. Now, what's happening with Priya is when she's going from India to France, this is westward travel, as you know. When we go westward, it amounts to phase delay. Like what is happening, you can see she's reached there, it's 6 o'clock. But her body is telling her it's 10:30. It's 10:30 according to her body, so as such she wants to sleep. It's sleeping time. But there she's seeing it's 6 o'clock, so she can't sleep over there. It's okay. Like we were seeing in the factory work situation, her body will be able to delay sleep a little. Like according to France time, if it is 6:30, 6 at that time, she'll have to wait for 4 or 5 hours before she can sleep. It's not ideal for the body, but that is something that the body can adjust to. Like it's okay. So she is going to feel better about this compared to the next situation which we see. In the next situation, what is happening? She's having to travel from Paris to Bangkok. Now, this, as you know, is eastwards, west to east. Here, what is happening is called phase advance. Concretely, if you see, she arrives at 7 a.m., but her body clock is telling her it's 1 a.m. Means her body clock is telling her it's much earlier than what it is over there. Now, what will happen is when she wants to sleep, like her body is telling her it is 1 a.m. Sleep time is gone as such. Now, when she will have to sleep is in this thing, Bangkok, when it becomes like, say, 10 p.m. That time she will have to sleep. But in her body's clock, when it becomes 10 p.m. in Bangkok, that time her body will be telling her it is something like about 6 hours behind. So her body will roughly tell her it is 4 p.m. or something. That means she'll have to sleep early. Her body will not want to sleep at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, but it is night outside, so she will have to sleep. That is difficult for the body to do. Like when outside, it is not time, so it is time to sleep, but inside the body is saying no. The body has to force itself to sleep, which becomes very difficult. Delay, which we saw in the first case, the body can still do because the body is feeling sleepy. Okay, it has to control. Like you can relate to your life's experience. Sometime when you're feeling sleepy, but you're not allowed to sleep that time, okay. Your body still fights and stays awake for a little time, then it goes off to sleep. But advance, your body is not ready to sleep and someone is insisting, no, you have to only sleep now. You lie down on the bed, but you don't get sleep. So that is very difficult for the body to adjust to. These are the things you have to explain in the answer. Now, when we are writing, now coming to answer writing, how are we supposed to structure this answer? I'll give you the logic behind structuring. I'm writing it here, so it might seem very elaborate. Like you might think, oh my god, so much I will have to think before writing. It just takes a second to think this. Because I'm showing it to you, it's going to take a few minutes. Okay, when you're structuring this type of answer, firstly, again, look at the marks. It's worth 4 marks. Okay, the command term is explained. They want some reasoning, but they want it for two different situations. Like you see, it's two situations rolled into one. One is the westward travel, one is the eastward travel. That means for each they are giving you 2 marks, meaning that this first section is worth 2 marks and the second section is worth 2 marks. It's very important to note these things if you want to score well. It might seem unnecessary when I'm saying, but you can't write answers intuitively. You have to take into account command term marks and all and then write the answer. So, what is worth 2 marks is the first situation which is given in which Priya is traveling westwards. And what is worth another 2 marks is the second situation is which is given in which she is traveling eastwards. You have to explain. Here you don't have to just suggest why she is having difficulty. So you will have to explain with good terminology that when she is traveling westwards, it is phase delay. And that is easy for the body to adjust to. And then for eastwards, you will have to explain it is phase advance, and that is difficult for the body to adjust to. So now you should be able to see how you're going to score 4 marks. For just explaining the direction of the travel westward, you will get 1 mark. For explaining how phase delay is causing a problem in westwards, you will get 1 mark. So that's 2 marks. For the next one, again for specifying the direction of travel eastward, you will get 1 mark. And then to explain that it is phase advance, you will get another 1 mark. So then you know exactly how to structure your answer. Okay, I'll write down a sample answer for this also. Like I was telling you previously, in every answer, it's not always specified which concepts you have to make use of. Like in this situation, you must have seen, they have not directly mentioned using phase delay and phase advance explain what is happening. So you have to figure out what are the concepts. Make sure you know all the concepts coming under each topic. Okay, so how we can structure this answer is, when Priya travels from India to France, she is traveling westwards. This involves phase delay, whereby she has to adjust to a later time than her body clock, which is easier for the body to adapt to. So this is worth 2 marks. You can see I've mentioned the direction of travel. Firstly, that's very important. Then I've used the correct term phase delay. And because it's explained just in one line, I've explained that she has to adjust to a later time. However, when she travels, now I'm talking about the next situation, from France to Thailand, she's traveling eastward. This involves phase advance, whereby she has to adjust to an earlier time than her body clock, which is more difficult for her body to adapt to. Okay, I just want to reiterate this, what I've already said in the previous answer, because this is something I can't emphasize enough. This is where students are all the time losing marks. No doubt I have given the terminology and the concepts and all, but I want you to see how I'm constantly referring to Priya when writing the answer. I'm constantly referring to the countries which are named in the scenario, students don't do that. They write AO1 type of answers no matter it is an AO2 question. So very generically, they are going to talk about this is phase advance, this is phase delay. If we go westwards, this is the type which thing. They will not talk about Priya. They will not name the countries at all in the answer. That's a very bad way of answering. The reason they have given you the whole stem is because they want you to engage with it. Otherwise, like I said, they could have asked you generic questions. So absolutely do not make that mistake. Make sure you're writing just like I have written, referring to whatever is given in the situation. Make use of the context. That is the key requirement for AO2. Okay, let's look at the next situation which is given. Okay, just a minute. Emily, a 40-year-old marketing executive, flew from London to Los Angeles, crossing 8 time zones. Upon arriving, she felt disoriented and had trouble sleeping at night. During her flight, Emily drank several glasses of wine and watched movies instead of trying to sleep. When she landed, she spent most of the day in her hotel room with the curtains drawn, trying to nap. Explain why Emily experienced severe symptoms after the flight. Explain. Okay, so like I've said in the previous answers, reasoning is required. It's a 2 marks answer here. Okay, and first let's understand the concept. As always, what is the concept they're referring to here? Definitely, when it comes to flying and all, we know what must be happening. We've learned in our syllabus. She is experiencing uh, again time adjustment. She's crossing time zone. She's experiencing jet lag. Basically, this is coming from jet lag topic. She feels disoriented because of that jet lag, because she's having to cross time zones. That's one thing we need to explain. But also, what is compounding the thing over here is that she has been, instead of spending the time sleeping on her flight so that she can compensate in advance for the sleep that she's going to lose after landing. She's been drinking glasses of wine and watching movies. So she's kept her brain very active instead of letting it relax before she can land. So both the things we'll have to mention. In the question, if you see, they haven't really specified how many reasons you need to give. But here, if I only talk about jet lag, that will not be sufficient because, like I said, the situation given is very important. And in the situation, this mention of what she's been doing on the flight is very relevant. Otherwise, why would they have given it here? So I have to make use of that as well. So I will show reasoning and I'll explain both the things together. Also, let's quickly look at the next question also, then we can write the answers together. Suggest ways she could have reduced them. By them, they mean the symptoms. Of course, she could have been relaxed during the flight instead of watching movies and all. She could have taken a nap, or at least wakefulness. What we say, like she could have been awake but fully relaxed instead of actively engaging her mind. And the other one is very obvious, that she should not have been having all those drinks and all, because alcohol we know directly disrupts circadian rhythms. So that is something she should have avoided doing. This is a suggest type of question for 2 marks. Again, like the previous one we've seen, we don't need to give justifications here. We just need to point out that this is what she could have done. Okay, let's write these answers. Emily must have experienced these symptoms because, firstly, see, it's explained, so I'm using the word because, means I'm showing the reasoning. She remained active during the flight by watching movies instead of sleeping, which would have allowed her to compensate for later feelings of sleepiness. Also, drinking wine must have interfered. Either you can say with central nervous system functioning or rather with circadian rhythms, body clock, anything you can say, making it difficult for her to relax during the flight. Okay, and the second one, what we can write is Emily could have reduced her symptoms by firstly sleeping or at least being restfully awake rather than watching movies during the flight. Secondly, she could have avoided drinking during the flight. Alright, let's look at the next question now. Ella and Ravi are studying the stages of sleep for the psychology project. Ella mentions that during one stage of NREM sleep, the brain's activity is dominated by theta waves, that's 4 to 7 hertz, and includes occasional bursts of sleep spindles. Ravi points out that at a later stage, delta waves, that's 1 to 4 hertz, begin to appear and the number of spindles decreases. Okay, very simple first one marker type of questions are there. These are also possible in the paper. They will be name or identify type of questions. And that strictly means you can answer like you can write one sentence, but 1-2 words will be the chief thing. If you want, you can just answer in 1-2 words. Identify the NREM stage Ella is describing. This strictly means no elaboration. Identify command term means just be to the point and just name the stage. So what we've learned is that 4 to 7 hertz of sleep is stage 1 NREM. That's all. If you want, you can write a sentence. Ella is describing stage 1 NREM sleep, but it comes to the same effect. So if you want, you can just write it this way. This is preferred. Next is identify the NREM stage Ravi is describing. He's describing a stage where it's like 1 to 4 hertz, and that you have learned that is stage 3 NREM sleep. You can refer to the waves also, but when you refer to the waves, it becomes a little confusing. Like, is it stage 1 or stage 2? And is it stage 3 or stage 4? Because the type of waves are similar in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it's better to refer to the hertz. And like always tell my students, that whole table which is given in the textbook for the 4 NREM stages and REM, you have to memorize the hertz for each. Okay, next is explain one characteristic of the stage Ravi mentions that makes it different from what Ella has described. Whenever there's a comparison type of question, like this is what this one said and that is what that one said. First thing is make sure to cover both sides. Like some students, they will say, okay, Ravi has mentioned NREM, so just let me give some feature of NREM. For example, we know stage 3 NREM is for physical restoration. So they'll think, okay, I'll mention that the stage which Ravi is mentioning is for physical restoration. But they won't draw comparison and say, what about the stage of what Ella is describing? You have to point out about that also. So you have to say, if stage 3 NREM is for physical restoration, then stage 1 NREM is not for physical restoration. Rather, it's like a transitionary phase. Like we've seen in Horney's theory also, these lighter stages which are there, they are just transitionary. They just help the body to go towards deeper restfulness. You have to mention that also. You have to say that what Ella is describing is a transitionary stage. You can't just say Ravi is saying this and leave it at that. That will just give you 1 mark. Secondly, here there's very big likelihood that students are just going to do restatement of what is given in the question. Because in the question itself, they've pointed out that spindles begin to decrease when it comes to the later stage. So many students, they'll just say in what Ravi has mentioned, there is a decrease of sleep spindles compared to in what Ella has described. That will not count. When they say one characteristic, even if they don't write explicitly, they mean not given in the scenario. They don't want you to restate things in the scenario. That's not what this test is about. Okay, so make sure, like I've already told you, you talk about physical restoration. Another alternative, you could talk about memory consolidation, which takes place in deeper stages. Talk about those things. Don't talk about the physical characteristics of the sleep, which are already given in the situation. Don't talk about those. Okay, you never get marks for restatement of what is given in the question, so you don't even need to look at the mark scheme or anything for these type of questions. As such, these are not past paper questions, so you won't get the mark scheme. But for similar types of questions, if you look at the mark scheme, never will you find that, just for restatement they're giving you marks. They'll explicitly mention for restatement don't give marks, so be very sure about that. Okay, what we can say is NREM stage 3 mentioned by Ravi plays a role in the physical restoration of the body, whereas NREM stage 1 mentioned by Ella is a light stage of sleep that helps transition from wakefulness towards the restfulness of deeper sleep stages. So sometimes I know when I'm saying things, when I'm explaining things, they might not be very clear to you, but once I've written, I hope then you're able to understand what I was explaining. Many students, they will end the answer here. That stage 3 plays a role in restoration. They will not write the next part of the answer, which is about what Ella has said. The whereas part will not be there in the answer. That is what I meant, that if you don't write this part, you lose 1 mark. So make sure when a comparison is being drawn, how this is different from that, you give both the sides. You mention what Ravi is saying also and what Ella is saying also to get full 2 marks. Okay, so here we got to see again different type of questions from the sleep stages concept. These questions, I forgot to mention the concept, I'm sorry. They came from the sleep stages. So here we got to see how 1 markers identify type questions can come. So I hope this exercise which I have prepared, it is helping you to look at various command terms, various possible marks which can be attributed to questions. So it should be useful to you in answering your AO2 from sleep, which, like I said, there is a dearth of questions on this topic. But this exercise I have made in a way that it's coming from different topics throughout the chapter. And like I just pointed out, different set of marks, command terms, so that you can get thorough practice of the chapter. So that you don't feel that void, that, oh, in past papers it's not there, it's missing. So, I'm not getting that practice. This one exercise should prove to be quite enough, I would say, for the paper. Okay, let's look at the next question. Sarah and James are discussing the study of dreams in psychology. Sarah argues that dreams are subjective experiences and cannot be studied scientifically, while James believes that psychologists should focus on REM sleep instead, as it can be measured objectively. Explain why REM sleep is considered more suitable for scientific study than dreams. This is coming from the sleep and dreams section, Aserinsky and Kleitman, Dement and Kleitman, that section. I don't know why, but I have seen in my classes students really overlook this topic in sleep. I don't know what's the reason for that. They don't give importance to the dreaming topic. Perhaps it's been covered briefly in the textbook, that's why. But it is important. It's a part of your course. Or sometimes I don't know why schools are not focusing on this topic. So then if you're skipping the dreams topic and this type of a question comes, it's going to be difficult for you to answer. Don't skip any topic in a chapter. Okay, I'll just explain to you before we write. Here they're talking about dreaming and sleeping. Firstly, you should know the difference between dreaming and sleeping. Sleeping is a physiological process whereby the body goes off to rest. And dreaming is a psychological process whereby we have images, thoughts, sensations, a desire for movement that we experience during sleep. Those sensations, experiences make up for what we call dreaming. So they are two different things. Sleeping is a physiological process and dreaming is a psychological process. With this explanation only, you should get a hint of the answer that you have to give. Why REM sleep is more suitable for scientific study? Just now, what I said, sleeping is physiological. Whatever is physiological can be measured directly with objectivity, right? So it will be more scientific. But what is psychological? What is in someone's mind? Very difficult to measure scientifically. You have to use a little unscientific type of techniques like self report to measure that. That makes it challenging. That makes it unscientific. So you must have noticed in the Dement and Kleitman study also, which is described in your book, that when it came to sleep, they were able to investigate it using EEG, and EEG is very precise technology. But when it comes to dreaming, they had to resort to the self reports of participants, the narratives which they recorded, and that is very subjective, right? So that is where you need to draw from the answer from Dement and Kleitman, of course, applied to this scenario of Sarah and James, but that is from where your knowledge should be coming. Recently, I was practicing these questions, to be honest, with my students, and one thing I noticed is what students are doing when they're writing this answer. Firstly, like I told you, many of them have overlooked this topic, fortunately, but I had done it in the class, so they knew the answer. But when they are writing in their answers, what we were working on in correction, I was telling them that they are missing being explicit. Like, they will say things, okay, they've understood in the class that sleep is about physiological measurement. They'll not give an example of what is that physiological measurement technique. I know the answer is only for 2 marks. You can't elaborate too much. So you can't go into things like EEG measures the amplitude and the frequency of waves and all. That's not required also. But at least you can name EEG. Why not give a concrete example always to make your points clearer? So when you're saying physiological measurement is scientific, it's objective, why not say because it can be done using technology like EEG? Doesn't make your answer much better? So some improvement can always be made in answers. I'll show you. So try to always be very explicit and concrete. That's the message I'm trying to give you. Also, when you talk about self-reports, you can give an example from Dement and Kleitman, like narratives by participants, and those are prone to bias or distortion. Why not? Why not make points as clear as possible? Structure-wise, it is explained. Reasoning is required. 2 marks are there, so 1 mark for why sleep is scientific, and 1 mark for why dream is unscientific. Also, like I just mentioned in the previous answer, direct comparison is required. Some students will just say sleep can be measured physiologically, finished. They'll not talk about the other side. What about dreams? You have to mention both sides to get 2 marks. Okay, so let's write this answer. REM is more scientific as specified by James. It can be measured objectively by using technology like EEG, for uh, error free, or you can say unbiased measurement of its occurrence and duration. Means what do we come to know using this technology? Okay, I'm sorry, it's gone very much below on the screen. Okay, and NREM, sorry, not NREM, dreams are less scientific as argued by Sarah, since they have to be measured using self-report, which is prone to bias and distortion, like dream narratives, right? Okay, so you can write it this way. So you can see I have explained. If I would just write that because it can be measured by EEG, because that is by self-report. But what is the explanation? So what if it can be measured by EEG? It's error-free measurement. That's called explanation or justification. This is why it is scientific. And why self report is not scientific? Because it is prone to bias and distortion. Like I said, it's just about writing style. You can skip talking about EEG or dream narratives. You don't want to give explicit examples, that's fine. I just feel it makes for better answer writing, makes your points more clear. That's why I'm insisting. But these things are very important, what I've pointed out right now. Bias free measurement, being prone to bias. This is the explanation part of it. This is how you justify why this is scientific and why this. If this is missing, then you're not going to get marks. Also, we have to explain one challenge psychologists face when studying dreams. It is a little similar to the previous answer, like we've seen, it's about self report. And that's why participants can be biased in their responses, and it is not amenable to scientific measurement. See, it is similar to the previous answer, but how your structure is going to be different for this one is, first, you have to give any one challenge. I'm taking self-report only. Here, you can explain more what I had explained before, that because it is psychological, because it's an innate experience, cannot be measured directly. That is why there is challenge in studying dreams. So here you can explain more. The command term is explain only, though it's not given here. Previously, what they've given, they are following from that only. So we have to explain one challenge, means we have to first point out this is the challenge. It is psychological, cannot be measured directly. In the next, you have to explain, okay, what is the problem with that? So therefore, it's unreliable because uh, people can distort their narratives, or because it can't be seen directly on the EG. So think of it as 1 mark naming the challenge, 1 mark explaining the challenge. Okay, so here what we can say, one challenge is that dreams cannot be measured reliably because, as specified by Sarah, they are subjective experiences, they are psychological and not amenable to physiological measurement. They have to be investigated using self report of people experiencing dreams, as they cannot be, as they do not have biological measures that can be captured in physical recording. So, something to this effect you will have to explain, that because they are purely psychological, subjective, the only way of measuring is to use self report, and that's why they are unreliable. That word reliable is really adding to the explanation here, that we are showing in the next sentence why reliability is not there in the case of dreaming. Okay, so this was similar like our previous answer. Let's look at the next question. Leela and Dan are discussing the sleep patterns of different animals for their project, biology class project. Leela argues that predators like lions sleep more because they are less vulnerable in the environment. Dan disagrees and claims that the environment, such as being aquatic or terrestrial, is the most significant factor influencing sleep patterns. Using the evolutionary approach to sleep, explain how both Leela and Dan could be correct. Okay, you have seen so many animal studies of sleep wake in the textbook evolutionary explanations. Basically, what Leela is talking about is predation. So, I'll just explain this to you. You've seen there are broadly two types of animals in the animal kingdom. Like, one classification is on whether they are predators or preys. Now, definitely, we have learned that predators tend to sleep more because, like Leela is saying, they're less vulnerable to the environment. The prey needs to sleep more so that it remains inconspicuous and does not get caught by the predator. So it remains safe by sleeping. Predator has no requirement to be safe because it's not the prey. So that is only actually what we need to explain for Leela, and this is the explanation. So when we take an animal like a lion, it's a predator, so it's not endangered that some animal is going to come and prey upon it, so it can sleep more. But when it comes to an animal like say a rabbit or a deer or something which can be predated upon, which is the prey, it will have to sleep more so that it does not come in the notice of the predator. So that's what we've learned about predation. The next thing is about Dan, aquatic, terrestrial. What we've learned is when it comes to aquatic animals, they've had to adjust their sleep patterns. Like the most prominent example given in the textbook is of the dolphins who need to come to the surface repeatedly to breathe. And that becomes an issue because if they go off to sleep, then how are they going to come on the surface to breathe? So their body has adapted that way. Like they sleep hemisphere by hemisphere, like we've learned. So definitely aquatic or terrestrial matters. Terrestrial animals, we have learned they can go and sleep in their burrows if they want to remain inconspicuous, or otherwise they can just go to some uh, difficult to catch areas like within deep jungles. They can go and sleep because territory is open to them and they don't need to, like their body has not had to adapt like hemispherically or anything, because oxygen is continuously available to them. So these are the things we've learned. It's little lengthy for this topic, evolutionary explanation, so I can't get into anything. But I hope from what I'm explaining to you, you're able to bring to mind again what are the relevant sections which you've learned. Now we have to explain, coming to the answer. Again, explain, we have to justify how Leela and Dan are correct. We have to show reasoning. So the reasoning which I've just explained to you right now, that is what you need to bring about in the answer. Also, I'll just write the structure for this one also since it's 4 marks. What you're going to write about Leela, this similar structure like I wrote for a previous answer, is going to be 2 marks. What you're going to write about Dan is going to be for 2 marks. So for Leela, what you have to talk about mainly is the predator-prey hierarchy and how remaining inconspicuous becomes the reason for sleeping more or less. And when it comes to this one, Dan, we have to talk about the aquatic terrestrial, that is the environment classification. And that becomes about need for oxygen, breathing. That becomes the reasoning for why their sleep patterns can be different from each other, right? So let's explain that using this structure. Once we have the structure in mind, what happens is we know for each what are the 2 points we need to give for marks. So first we need to talk about predator prey hierarchy, 1 mark, inconspicuousness, 1 mark, aquatic terrestrial, 1 mark, and then breathing, 1 mark, that way. Okay, so let's begin with Leela. Leela is correct because in the predator prey hierarchy in the animal kingdom, it is the predators who are not endangered and thereby can afford to sleep more without any threat to life, as is the case with lions. Okay, so keeping on using wording, the example which is given in this situation. However, preys are endangered by predators and can therefore sleep less, as they might have to move from place to place to be inconspicuous to the predator if they are approaching, which requires wakefulness. I know they haven't directly spoken about praise in this situation, like they've just spoken about predators. So you might wonder, why am I writing about prey? Because she's just talking about lions, just to bring about the contrast. Many times when we give a contrast or counterpoint to what is given, not counterpoint, the other side to what is given, it gives more clarity to the original point. Like when we see why praise have to be more careful, automatically it shows that indirectly this is the reason why predators don't need to be very careful. That's why I've brought about that. And then we can say Dan is also correct because in the aquatic terrestrial environmental classification in the animal kingdom, aquatic animals have to work harder to get oxygen below the surface of water as compared to terrestrials who easily have oxygen supply available. Thus, for example, dolphins have adapted to hemispheric sleeping rather than complete sleep so that they can keep approaching the surface for oxygen. Okay, what Dan has suggested, he has not given any examples, unlike Leela. Leela has given the example of lions. So for Dan, he hasn't given any example of which animal is aquatic or terrestrial, so we can give an example from what we've learned. So sometimes it happens in these scenario questions, some part is very explicit, we can draw from there only the example. Some part is not that explicit, so we can provide an example to make points more clear. Okay, let's look at the next question. I'm not having too much time. I don't know how much I'll be able to cover, but let's try to quickly cover one or two questions more. I think I've explained enough about command term marks and all. So just for the sake of, being quick now, I'll go a little faster with these questions. I'll explain to you, but I won't go into that much detail. Sophia is a 30-year-old woman who works long hours as a software engineer. She often experiences poor sleep quality with difficulty falling asleep and frequent wake-ups during night. Recently, she has become concerned about impact of her sleep on both her brain and body function. When you see wording like this, only you know they're going to ask about stages of sleep. One evening, after a long day of work, Sophia manages to get about 7 hours of sleep. During this time, she experiences deep NREM sleep followed by REM sleep, but also spends some time in light NREM sleep. Sophia wonders about the role of different stages of sleep in her health, particularly in relation to brain restoration and tissue repair. Okay, now these stages of sleep, they made it even more specific to Horney's theory. So based on Horney's theory, explain why REM and deep NREM sleep are essential for Sophia's brain function. All right. We have learned in Horney's theory, I'll just explain quickly first that REM sleep is required for brain restoration, NREM sleep is required for body restoration. That's the distinction. So, definitely, why REM sleep is essential for Sophia would be because she needs her brain to restore. She's working as a software engineer and all. So, her brain cells and all will be able to revive when she's sleeping. Don't get into memory consolidation and all your that much detail is not required. Also, that's not, many students confuse it with REM. Actually, that's not what happens in REM sleep. So, just avoid that topic. Just stick to brain restoration in REM. Deep NREM, why it's responsible? See, again, not memory consolidation and all, because they've given you a hint by talking about tissue repair. So just stick to what's in the situation instead of like straying away from the situation. So we know tissue repair, physical restoration is what is happening in the NREM state. So we can focus on that. Explain why. So again, command term is explain. It's for 2 marks. Okay, let's address it that way. 1 mark will be for REM, 1 mark will be for NREM. Okay, REM sleep is essential for Sophia because her brain will restore at this time. This is good explanation, but have we made it relevant to Sophia? Like, have we used enough wording from scenario to apply to her? No. So we need to mention that at this time, which is necessary for her as she is having poor sleep quality. Okay, so brain will restore, which is getting sacrificed by poor sleep quality. That is what I want to indicate. NREM sleep is essential because her body will restore at this time, which is necessary for her as she is worried about her health and especially tissue repair of the body. See, it's for 1 mark each, so there's not much elaboration that we can give. Also, they have mentioned some things about what Sophia is specifically concerned about. So, I've mentioned those things and I've avoided talking about learning and memory consolidation because she's mainly concerned about the physical aspects. So, I'm restricting my answer to that. Next is discuss the possible role of light NREM sleep in Sophia's overall health according to Horney's view. Many students don't read carefully. This is what I noticed in class also. Like later when I point out, they will tell me, oh ma'am, we just misread. But see, because of misreading, you are missing the answers. You're not writing correctly. They've specifically asked you light NREM. They're in such a rush to complete the paper that they will just read NREM. And any point that applies to deep NREM, they will give you. So what they will say is, again, they will talk about tissue restoration, physical restoration. That's not what's happening in light NREM. Specifically, they're asking you about light. So then you just need to address what happens in light NREM. We've addressed it in one of the answers before. So the explanation I'm not repeating. I'm directly writing the answer. Light NREM sleep, in fact, you can write this explicitly, will not help Sophia restore her health directly. However, it will help her to smoothly transition towards deep NREM stages, which help body restoration. So, indirectly, they will enable her health to improve. Okay, so read the question carefully. Also, many times students feel, oh, they've said light NREM, actually, they should have said deep NREM. They've made a printing error. See, if there's a printing error, the board will notify you about that. This is not a printing error. They want to see whether you can explain the importance of light NREM or not. So make sure you're talking only about that. Here the command term was discuss. It's not so much about explain, it's just like about pointing out, which I have done. This is what light NREM. That's why I'm not gone into justification of like naming the stages. Stages 1 and 2 are light, and slowly the waves get deeper, and that's how it transitions. That much explanation I'm not doing because that was not the command term. Next is, why is growth hormone important during NREM sleep, and what issue might Sophia face regarding body restoration during night? Okay, actually, it's a little long question given for 1 mark, but we have to address very briefly. So, we have to be prepared for all sorts of things. Sometimes we have to elaborate more on something which is actually brief, and sometimes we have to shorten something that is actually long. So, good, we get all sorts of practice. Growth hormone is important because of tissue repair. Like we are seeing, it can help repair the tissues that have been damaged during the day. And as far as what issue she might face, like we've learned, for growth hormone to work, it needs the aid of amino acids and proteins. And usually, people have not had their dinner or a protein rich food just before sleeping. So, that amino acid or that protein is not available when the person is going into NREM stage, so that growth hormone can combine with that and repair tissues. This is the explanation, but we have to put it in 1 mark. We can't write this much. So, what we have to write is growth hormone is important for tissue repair, but it requires the aid of amino acids and protein to function, which Sophia might not have available at night. making repairing difficult. What alternative time might Sophia's body use to restore itself during the day as suggested by Horney? Horney has suggested this thing, any daytime actually, not any specific time. He's just spoken about restorative nap. So we can say daytime can be used by Sophia. Morning to afternoon, daytime. He's been broad about it, not very specific. So morning to afternoon time for restorative naps is what she can use. A what question is like a suggest question. If we talk about the command term, definitely no explanation required. Like why she should sleep in the day only or why she should take nap instead of full sleep. We don't need to get into those things. So we can say as suggested by Horney, Sophia can take a few restorative naps during the morning to afternoon time to restore her body. Alright, let's look at the next question. Unfortunately, this is the last question which I can take up. So let's do this one quickly. Tom, a 28-year-old man, has been struggling with sleep for past few weeks. He finds it difficult to fall asleep, often taking more than 30 minutes to drift off. He frequently wakes up several times during the night and struggles to get back to sleep. As a result, he feels extremely tired and irritable during the day, impacting his work, performance, and social interactions. Tom has not been experiencing any obvious triggers such as stress, and he does not have a history of any medical conditions. Based on Tom's symptoms, what type of insomnia might he be experiencing? So, this is coming from the last section of the unit, which is on sleep disorders, and they've directly named insomnia here. So, concept wise, we know what it is. Just to explain to you quickly, insomnia is about either complete lack of sleep or just very, very poor quality of sleep, such that sleep does not contribute to restfulness. So, that is what is happening with Tom. Number of symptoms are given, typical symptoms like not being able to sleep at night, and that's why, because of lack of restfulness, being irritable and on the edge in the day. So, typical things Tom is showing. Now, what they're asking is based on Tom's symptoms, what type of insomnia he might be experiencing. We've learned about primary and secondary insomnia, and we've seen that primary does not have any particular reasoning why it is happening. Secondary is the one which is associated to some other medical condition. So, when they say that Tom does not have any obvious triggers, that wording is the key to understanding that it is primary insomnia, because that is without any medical condition. So I know sometimes what happens is situations given are long. Students, they're in a rush, mad rush in the paper. That's why you're not supposed to take a mad rush approach, like I've explained previously in one of my videos. When you go into mad rush, what happens is you miss out on key sentences. Like there are no obvious triggers. Then I don't know, students will start talking about chronic insomnia, this, that, like totally irrelevant types will come into the picture because they've not seen the direct hint which is given, does not have any triggers. Why have they mentioned that? Because they're hinting towards primary insomnia. This is very easy answer to score on. So make sure you read the question carefully. That's all that's required. Also, what type of insomnia? This is like an identify, name type of a command term. So you can just specify, no need for any explanation or elaboration. So you don't need to, if you want, you can say since there are no triggers, but not required. What diagnostic criteria are most relevant to Tom's condition? Very obviously given again in the question. So this one's like really easy to score. We have seen one diagnostic criteria for identification of insomnia is that uh, the sleep delay should be like 30 minutes or more. So in Tom's case, directly they've specified it takes him more than 30 minutes to drift off. So that is there. Another criterion we have seen is repeated awakenings at night. So he frequently gets up. Another is irritability. So as such, there are many. I'm just taking two right now because it's for 2 marks. They haven't said that you have to take two criteria, but criteria, firstly, it's in plural. So let's take two. Let's not take one. And to justify 2 marks, let's think of it as 1 mark for each criterion. So we can say one criterion is uh, taking 30 minutes or more to drift to sleep. Another is, uh, which is the case with Tom, means we are trying to say this is only the criterion and this is only what is being seen in his case. Another is repeated awakenings at night, and as seen in the case of Tom, he, I'll use the wording, frequently wakes up several times during the night. All right, so 1 mark per symptom, per criterion. Next is, if Tom's insomnia persists for more than a month, what could be the possible classification of his condition? Now they've said hypothetically, irrespective of what was given the scenario, what if it goes on for longer than this? Again, what could be just means we have to name it. We don't need to explain anything. We have learned in terms of duration, how long insomnia is persisting. It can be either chronic, which goes on for long periods, like more than a month, or it can be acute, which is temporary, usually attached to some stressful situation. When the situation goes away, then insomnia also corrects itself. So here we just have to specify chronic insomnia, because if it's happening more than a month, that we know is the classification for long term or chronic insomnia. Okay, that's all I can cover for today. I hope these answers are useful to you for practice, given that sleep unit is having problems not having enough questions. So I hope this addresses your problem. And I have covered an A2 video also with this, which was much in demand. If you have any other requests on which video should be made, any suggestions, feedback on this video, please leave it in the comments box below. And if you want to contact me for private tuition or classes for your AQA International or UK AQA Psychology, you can call me or email me on my contact details given below. That's all I have for today's class. Uh, Goodbye then, and see you in the next video. All the best for your exams.